Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' book characters. So a few months back, maybe like fall of last year or something, I realized that when it comes to female characters in books, there was one like type of character that I realized. It might have been when I was making my like top 10 favorite female characters list a little while back. I'm not sure. But at that time, I realized I really enjoy like an upper class, they tend to be like British, snarky, sassy, like high society lady. Like witty, clever, and they're just like so funny usually and just fun. And I really enjoy that like character archetype, I guess. And you know, there's perhaps an actual name for this, but I just called them upper class snark sass ladies. And in thinking about like what other kinds of female characters I like, I realized that there is another type I really enjoy as well. And particularly I see this other type in fantasy, and that is female characters who are like stepping up to the plate for their people, usually in a political way. Like usually they are like, there's political machinations going on. Usually they have some semblance or some actual power, and they are trying to like be responsible and like think of their people, you know, whether they are a leader of their people or they are trying to be, like whatever the case is. Like these are just women who are like, I gotta sacrifice my own wants and desires for these people to try to make life better for them. These are two types of female characters that I just really love. And I think my favorites tend to fall under these two categories, usually. Not always, of course. And like there are other types that I could probably think of, but these two just came to mind, and I have a few examples for both. So I just wanted to go through those with you. And hopefully this is fun for someone. I don't know, I think it's fun to think about that. Like all these characters that I really, really love, like do they have things in common? You know what I mean? Like, and what do they have in common? What do I, what's my type, basically, when it comes to characters that I enjoy? And for most of these, I'm sure you've heard me talk about them before, just talking about them in a different context. So for the upper class, snark, sassy ladies, my examples for this are Alexia Terabati from the Soulless, the Parasol Protector series. And that is fantasy, but it's like historical, set in like Victorian times. It's like steampunk, paranormal. You know, there's vampires and werewolves known and out and about in the world and like on government councils and stuff. And Alexia is from like an upper class-ish family of this time. And she's like 26 or something and considered a spinster because she's still alone and like has no interest. But she is soulless. She does not have a soul. So she experiences like, I don't know, feelings and whatnot, very different from everyone else. So it makes her very like dry a little bit, but her humor, oh my God, the clever banter and whatnot, I love it. I just love it. And yeah, she is like one of my all-time favorite characters. You guys have definitely heard me talk about her before. But yeah, I love, and like I said, they often tend to be British, I find. I think all of these, well, one is from a fantasy where like it's a made-up world, but like in the show, the actress is British, and the world like heavily resembles like, you know, medieval England, whatever. But yeah, the rest of them are all British. I don't know, just that like dry, clever, witty quips and banter. And Alexia is just, I love her for that. And the next one is a newer fave, but a fave nonetheless. Lady Hardcastle from the Lady Hardcastle mystery series. And also Flo, her maid, like they both like their banter together. But Flo is like her maid, and I mean it's like her best friend and companion, but Lady Hardcastle is the one that's like from, you know, high society. And I think it's like these women that are like from high society and like they know they are and they recognize, and like they tend to like follow a lot of the like, oh, proper manners and stuff, but they also tend to like go outside of what is expected of them a little bit. And it's almost like they just kind of think the whole thing is silly. Like this whole like upper class, high society. Like they know that they're of it and they're from it and like whatever, and they might follow certain social norms, but they just think it's all kind of silly and dumb. They're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm so special. And I feel like Lady Hardcastle is like that a lot. Just like not being judgmental and like not caring if, you know, like her maid is her best friend and other people be like, oh, you have a very close relationship with your maid. And she's like, oh, I know, we do. Like, whatever. And I don't know. She's also just so funny, so like irreverent, and her putting people in their place, like verbally, is just the best. I love it so much. And because she never even, like, she doesn't ever seem angry, even when she is, like, putting someone in her place. And then Beatrice from oh my God, it's up there. The Women of Chateau Lafayette. That's a historical fiction. And she was a real person. Like, this character, she is an actual real person. And so, you know, she just is a human that I think was cool. And she was, no, she wasn't British, actually. Was she originally? No, I don't think she was. She lived in the United States. And if I remember correctly, I think she didn't come from money. She married into money, I think. God, now I can't remember. I read it like the beginning of last year, so I don't quite remember all the details. But she married into it at the very least if she didn't grow up in it, and was a part of like higher society in, you know, early 20th century United States. And like the Vanderbilts and the Astors and like that kind of shit, you know? And she participated in it, but like to a point. Again, she did participate in it, and a lot of her whole thing was using it to her advantage. Like knowing, like she wanted to do good for people in the war. She wanted to try to help the soldiers and like get supplies to people on the front lines and like medical aid and like, you know, Red Cross type shit. But these things needed funding, and at the time, like, people just didn't care. So she was like, how can I get these high society, highfalutin people to give a crap? And so she, like, used her connections to her advantage and doing, you know, putting on, you know, these elite fundraisers that she knew would, like, draw their attention. And I just love her for that. And she, again, though, had the kind of sass and, like, I'm participating in these societal norms, like, to a point. And then after that, like, I kind of don't care what you people really think about me, because this is all stupid, really. I'm going to use it to my advantage as much as I can, but this is all dumb. And you are all squandering this privilege you have and this, like, power that you have for all these selfish reasons. And she just thought that was stupid. And I just very much admire her. Again, she's a real person, so, like, I feel like I can say I admire who she was portrayed to be in that book anyways. If that's really how she was a badass. And just, like, feisty, too. Most of these women, they tend to, like, that's the thing, like, that sassiness, it's, like, their little, like, feistiness. They are very kind and nice and, again, fit into the societal norms of, like, the nice lady. But, like, they have a fire in them, you know? Another one, Edna Watson from City of Girls. You know, it can be said that, like, there's one part in particular in City of Girls where the way Edna acts, it's, like, especially with a modern sensibility, she doesn't behave in a way that I, you know, think is the best, I guess. Her reaction to something and how she treats another woman in this moment. But, like, in the book, it's basically discussed and it's, like, called out of, like, this wasn't really fair that she was treating this woman this way and not this other person. Anyways, I won't spoil things. But Edna was British, and she was just this glamorous, like, stylish fashion icon, very put together all the time, but, like, lively, bubbly, fun, so charming. Like, this woman just oozed charm, and you just, like, love her from the minute you meet her, like, on page. She's just so great, and the main character, like, idolized Edna Watson. And again, she has that, like, very, again, friendly, bubbly, charming. People love her. But little quips and just her dialogue. Oh, my God. So clever, so smart, so witty. And oh, God. Just so many quotes from that book that I love come from Edna, like her actual dialogue. This last one is one that, like, I haven't read all of the books in the series yet. I can't tell you how many times I fucking said this lately talking about this series, A Song of Ice and Fire. Very familiar with the TV show. Like, you know, I've seen it, I don't even fucking know how many times I've watched through Game of Thrones. So I haven't, like, gotten super familiar with this character in the books, because I actually only have read up to book 3, and I'm rereading them right now, and I've reread books 1 and 2, and she's not even in books 1 and 2 yet. If I remember correctly, she is in book 3, but I don't know how heavily she's in book 3. Anyways, Lady Olenna. Olenna Tyrell, just God. I mean, if she isn't the epitome, and she's like way older, so she also just has that thing that I think, you know, we can see in like older people in general, of whatever socioeconomic status and like cultural, like older people get to a certain age where they're just like, I don't care. Like, you know, I'm going to do what I want. I'm kind of going to say what I want. I'm old. I deserve it, you know? And she kind of has that vibe, but she is obviously like upper class, of nobility. And again, she's not British, but like the actress, I believe, is, and like the society is very much mirroring British society back in the day, whatever. Anyways, but so she has those same qualities though that like fit all these other ones, of like very sassy, very feisty, she's very with like the quips and like putting people in their place and just little barbs at people, little jokes, little asides, and God, she's just so funny. She's so great. Again, I don't know how I'll feel like with her book character, because I don't know yet. But from the show, at least, she is just one of my faves. And again, this is just my current list, and I'm sure I'm probably missing some. This isn't like a comprehensive list, but there's a few examples of what I mean when I say these upper class, snarky, sassy ladies that I love. This is the example. And as far as like the more political, like stepping up to the plate for their people, sacrificing their own wants and desires in order to be responsible for their people. So I think all of these are fantasy, for sure. The first one is, it's weird because in book 2, book 3 isn't out yet of this series. In book 1, I really liked this character. In book 2, it's like I liked her, but also her chapters, not because of her. Okay, it was like more the plot that was going on. Her chapters in book 2 were my least favorite, but again, I still liked her and what she was doing. I just didn't love those chapters, like what was going on in that part of the story. I was kind of like, I mean, I'm here for it, but like I like this other stuff better. But Bhumika from the Burning Kingdoms by Tasha Suri, Jasmine Throne, Oleander Sword, in book 3, Untitled currently. And I assume she's going to be on the cover of book 3 because book 1 was Priya and book 2 was Malini. Makes sense that book 3 would be Bhumika, because these 3 women are like the main characters and they're all like interwoven in different ways. But yeah, Bhumika is very much the like stepping up to the plate. Like, she like sacrificed a lot. She got married off, like a political marriage, and to basically a colonizer of her land. And he was like, what were they called? It's like the governor, but like basically all, and it was like a fine marriage. Like, he wasn't evil to her or anything, but like she didn't really love him. And like, she's always like, she knows who she is at her core. She knows what her mission actually is. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like, what can I do from the inside to help my people? And like, some people don't agree with her for that. Some people think she needs to be more like revolutionary and like, fuck all these people. But she's like, we can use the nobility to our advantage. And like, I know these people and how they work. I'm going to continue to try to like destroy this shit from within. She definitely makes a lot of sacrifices of like her own will and desires due to her deep-rooted need to do what she thinks is best for her people. And another great example, Persephone. You've heard me talk about Persephone before from Legends of the First Empire series by Michael J. Sullivan. I mean, she's like the epitome of this to me. She very much sacrifices her wants and desires. Again, political marriage to someone she does not love and has like a very weird marriage with, or it's basically just on paper, and to create an heir and like try to work together for their own separate people and to try to like keep these two peoples working together amicably. And yeah, she sacrifices like all of her wants and desires basically for this desire to protect her people. A very new addition to this list is Cassia from the Blood Grace series by Bella Roth. I've only read books 1 and 2, and it's like a 6-book series currently, I think. And I don't know how many there's going to be. But it's paranormal fantasy with like really cool vampire, like a really cool take on vampires. Like probably the most interesting take on vampires I've ever personally seen. And Cassia is human, and she's like a bastard daughter of a king. And she's like recognized by the king, and people know who she is, and like she lives in the palace and stuff. But she is not treated well because of being a bastard. And her mom, I think, was a prostitute, if I remember correctly. But at any rate, the king is very cruel and emotionally abusive, and at times has been like physically abusive to her, like, and just a looming threat all the time of like literally if you make me pissed off enough, I'll just have you killed. Like she knows this is the case because it happened to someone else in her family. So she's just like always walking around on eggshells, and for much of her life she's walking around on eggshells, and she's very cunning though, and she will like be very cunning. She is very good at reading people and like picking up on what people's motivations are, and she can like read lips. She learned how to read lips from across the room, so she like can eavesdrop or like learn things about people. But she's very closed off for most of her life. Like walls up, do not let anyone in because no one is to be trusted, and it can be used against you by the king. So she basically, up until like the book starts, she's been using this cunning for like selfish reasons, like self-preservation, like to try to not get fucking killed, basically, in very clever, like, subtle ways for the king to never know that she's undermining him and that she's, like, making him make decisions that she wants him to make. But she has to do it in, like, such a subtle way that it could never be recognized as, like, I'm being manipulated by my bastard daughter. It's very interesting. I love her. And then, like, as the book goes on, she kind of starts to get more agency and more bravery and courage, and like realizing the dire straits that her people are in and that her dad doesn't give a shit. Like this king is a terrible king. And she starts to realize like I can use myself and my like ability to do all this shit secretly and subtly and like to manipulate him basically to their advantage, like to help people to the best of my ability. And so she starts doing that, and it's, I love it so much. Another one from a series that I did technically finish, but by the end of it, I didn't really love it. But I really liked the first book, and the second book was cool, but then, yeah, the third, I was like over it by then. But it's still a really cool world, and has this character who very much fits this, Phaedra, from Phaedra's Trilogy by Jacqueline Carey. She is raised to basically, she's raised as like a prostitute essentially, but in this world, this is like revered, and there are like rules and regulations for like sex and love basically. It's like part of the religion basically. So she is raised to be like a prostitute, but it's slightly different from like in our world when you think of like how prostitutes are treated. But she's raised to be this, but also to be a spy and to like use what she knows about the art of love to basically get people vulnerable, and then using what she learned about like subterfuge and like getting people to talk, like the right questions to ask and the right things to look for and like tells, to be a spy essentially for her kingdom. And at first people don't know she's doing it, but then it comes out and she like saves the day several times. And then eventually, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, just she does a lot of these political, you know, maneuverings and like learning things and giving the right information to the right people for her kingdom. Like always at the core of it is like, what can I do to help our people? From one of my current favorite series that is not finished yet, the Ending Fire Trilogy by Sara El Arifi, The Final Strife, and The Battle Drum. Hassa. This is similar to another one of my current favorites that isn't finished, The Burning Kingdoms by Tasha Suri, where it's a trilogy and it's a lot of like revolution and like whatever kind of elements to it. And there are, in both of these series, there are 3 main female characters who are kind of intertwined, and like each book has a different one on the cover thus far. So apparently that is something I really like. But Hassa is a trans woman from the Ending Fire. God, Burning Kingdoms, Ending Fire. She's a trans woman from that book series, and she is of the lowest caste. This is a world with a caste system based on blood color. And then there are the ghostings, the clear-blooded, and they are the lowest of the low. They are basically invisible. They have their tongues cut out and their hands cut off, basically in infancy. And no one even deigns to learn they've created like a sign language system or like a language using motions from their hands, and like I think facial expressions too. No one outside of ghostings bothers to learn how to communicate with them. Like they just see them as like literally less than human. Hassa is a ghosting. And Hassa, though, she's not like a leader of her people. There are leaders of her people. She works with them. Like she works with the elders of her community. And they are very much like trying to do things in secret, trying to help their people in secret. And Hassa does a lot of that. And Hassa is like a spy, basically. She never was registered as like a citizen, because when these babies are born and they get their hands and stuff cut off, like they get registered and assigned to like a place. Hassa was born and secretly the elders just did the mutilation of her to have her not be registered anywhere so she can just like move about wherever. You know, she has the different, like, I think it's like badges they have to wear, sashes, depending on like your job, your duties, like basically different costumes, uniforms she puts on to like go slide into the kitchens here or wherever, you know what I mean? And so she, again, isn't like a person of power, but she is on the ground doing what she can for her people all the time. And that is like always her goal. And the last one is Naime from the Mages of the Wheel series by J.D. Evans, which I have not read the prequel one, but the first like 3 full-length novels in the series that are out. And Naima is the main character from the first book. This is a thing where like each book is following a different couple, but like it has a continuing overarching plot, and like you see the other characters from the other books in each book, and they all end up like being intertwined and meeting and like working together. And Naime is the princess, essentially, or like sultana. Yeah. Her dad is the ruler in that first book, and she making political alliances, trying to oust the people that like are against her and that don't have the people's best interests at heart. And she's just always working to try to help her people and get these fuckers out of here. And I just really, really liked her. She's not my favorite character of the series, I don't think. I would need to reread it, I think, but I did really, really enjoy her character. And again, she fits into this whole like archetype that I really like. And once again, this is not a comprehensive list. I'm certain I could think of more if I really sat down and thought about it, but these were like the key ones that came to mind. And again, I could think of more like archetypes probably, but I just thought it was probably going to be long enough with just 2. Let me know though what like some of yours are, or like the ones I talked about. Are you like, oh yeah, I really like that too, actually? Let me know in the comments below. Or of course, just leave an emoji if you want to say hey. Let me know you're watching. That's always nice. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.